So I want to go to the Washington Post ABC poll from yesterday. I think it was like 62% of folks weren't confident that the president was doing much, and the speaker's numbers weren't much better. And as a divided Congress, how do we bring everybody together to make the American people feel like stuff is getting done?
I think we recognize that the past few years have been really hard for the American people. And a lot of that is reflected in their feelings of kind of where things are. And certainly across my district, I hear about the challenges people face with the costs at the grocery store, at the pharmacy counter, at the gas pump. And among the things I talk about are the steps forward that we have taken. The infrastructure bill as an example that Congress really can work, that we can identify the needs across a district such as the 7th, where we've got rural communities that need broadband connectivity. We've got lots of rivers to cross and bridges that are in disrepair. And indeed, we can come together, we can pass legislation in a bipartisan way and send it to the president's desk. And so I think that tonight presents an opportunity, particularly in light of this reality of kind of where people are, for the president to speak to successes for the country that we in Congress have ushered through, most of them in a very bipartisan way. And give an idea of what the future holds in terms of our desire to continue working together, our desire to have bipartisan success. You know, and the basic math of the House and the Senate means that successful legislation will have to be built on a coalition of people across parties and across the country. And that's what I'm focused on.
So with that said, the debt ceiling, where are the commonalities of agreement so we can move on with that?
Well, first we have to all agree, or at least a critical mass of legislators have to agree that defaulting would be absolutely catastrophic from an economic standpoint, from a national security standpoint, and that defaulting is absolutely not an option. That has to be the first step. And frankly speaking, there are some lawmakers who don't agree with that position, which is unthinkable to me. But the vast majority, Democrats and Republicans, the vast majority of members of Congress do recognize the real risk that comes with a potential default. And so from there, the next discussion is, okay, so we have to pay our bills, we have to demonstrate that we should protect the full faith and credit of the United States, but we can also have conversations about how we spend our money into the future. That's separate from, but related to, how we've already spent our dollars. And I think that both of those conversations can happen at the same time, but playing gamesmanship with the full faith and credit of the United States is absolutely dangerous. And, you know, our adversary nations are watching. China is watching. Iran is watching. Russia's watching. North Korea is watching. Are we going to take the necessary steps to basically protect the, economic foundation of our country? I mean, my answer to that is absolutely we have to.
Where are the areas, what are the easy parts that you think everybody can agree on? Where the debt ceiling is taken care of?
Yeah.
Where are the areas you think we can agree on for the cuts, for the balancing of the budget?
Well, I think that has to be a larger conversation, right? Is what's the trajectory? What's the timeline? What are our fiscal goals? I'm not someone who just supports across the board cuts. I think that if someone wants to propose places where they think we could make changes to our spending, either increases or decreases, that's part of the conversation. The reality is that the 2017 tax bill is going to be changing because there was a 5-year period as it relates to individuals, and so we're going to be confronting changes there. So it has to be an ongoing conversation about what are our overall fiscal health goals for the country, but that has to be separate and apart from the issue of the debt ceiling and our commitment to protecting our nation's economic security.
Are there any items that are off the table?
I mean, I think that this has to be a fulsome conversation. Certainly making threats to Social Security and Medicare, as we've now heard, the Speaker has now said that is not a potential area where some of my Republican counterparts are intending to or wanting to make cuts. And so that's I think a positive sign to hear that from the Speaker. So I'll take those positive steps. But the reality is that in addition to the fiscal health of our nation, there are pressing issues when it comes to workforce, when it comes to immigration, I hear across the board in my district, be it in our rural communities or in our more suburban and urban communities, issues of immigration reform are vital. It's vital as an economic issue, as a national security issue. Employers don't have the employees they need. Hospitals are trying to get visas for nurses and doctors. Agricultural endeavors, farmers and producers are trying to get H-2A visas. We've got Dreamers, we've got TPS workers, excuse me, who are trying to continue working and having the stability of doing so here in the United States. So there are a variety of things that we need to be focused on. And some of them have been hard conversations in the past. They're not the most obvious places where we could find commonality or common ground, but frankly, the economy and the future of our country and our communities really are demanding that we take action on some of these hard issues.